Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, presidential race begins to tighten. Will Monday's debate decide the contest? Is the Maryland Senate race already over? That's what the polls say. Why is John Delaney accusing Ami Hober of cheating? And take a knee. Football players at Watkins Mill High School kneel during the playing of the National Anthem. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by education activist Cynthia Rubenstein, former chairman of the Montgomery County Central Committee, Mark Uncapher, former candidate for the Maryland State Senate, Jerry Cave, and political strategist Susan Heltemes. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. It's not surprising that as Americans focus on the upcoming election, that political polls, both national and in target states, have swung widely, and the gap between the two major candidates has narrowed on the eve of the first presidential debate. The New York Times reports that nationally Hillary Clinton has a 73% chance of winning the presidency, while in the Washington Post, they analyze the battleground states and they conclude that Donald Trump has improved so much that he is one state away from having sufficient electoral votes to win the election. Susan, the political newsletter Rasmussen Reports writes that it's hard to remember a time when the debates were so critical to the outcome of a presidential election. Will Monday's debate decide the race?
Well, this debate has really gotten to me, and last night I had a dream, and in my dream, a major newspaper had a centerfold of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump
TMI.
was so upset, that he quit the race. But
It was a yes or no question.
No, it is going to be important, and it's going to be, does the emperor or the empress have clothing? And it's going to be really important. The bar is low for Donald Trump, and he has got to come in. And if he's just going to do crude zingers, he could lose. But what's important for Secretary Clinton is that she'll come in well reversed, she'll be knowledgeable, she'll be alert, she'll be articulate, but will she come across as a feeling, caring human being and not a robot? And that's going to make the difference.
All right, well, let's find out what the others think. Cynthia, as Peggy Noonan and others have noted, Trump is the only one who can beat himself. And according to news reports, Clinton's debate team is prepping her and stocking up on things they hope they can get under his skin and prompt the ugly Trump to emerge. Are people tuning in Monday to watch a debate or a Roman circus?
Some people are going to tune in to watch a debate. Some people are going to tune in to hope for or watch a Roman circus. I think that just to add on to what Susan said, that Hillary Clinton has to be absolutely unflappable and to project stateswoman qualities. But again, yes, she has to also project that she is a warm and feeling human being.
I want to tell you something. I am so grateful for the national media because they put the bar, as you said, Susan, so low for Trump that if he's mediocre, he does great. But there's not a mediocre bone in his body. When it comes to stagecraft like this, the guy is peerless. Not in politics.
He's in
peerless,
entertainment.
period. He is fantastic at this. And Hillary does not have a charismatic, characteristic inner corpus.
Oh, that's
and
not
she,
true.
As Doug Wilder said, has no message.
Well, I want to go to Mark because Mark is the voice of reason here on the panel. And Rasmussen
It's a first.
You're setting the bar high for me. Right?
I am setting the bar high for
Susan,
you.
I think that makes us the bar.
You're the low bar. Mark Rasmussen further comments that Mrs. Clinton only has to look healthy and alert. After her health scare, voters will be watching closely for any sign of tiredness or indication that her mind is wandering. So has the bar been set low for Hillary as well?
I got to say that I agree more with Susan and Cynthia on this, that the bar for her is much higher than that it's not enough for her simply to look healthy. She's always had this problem of being likable, of being a human that people relate to. And so she has a very difficult balancing act to be able to do that. And I think she has to do a lot more than simply not doze off.
She's not going to just love.
Okay.
She'll be ready.
After
She'll be
11
ready.
hours
You
with the
think she'll
house,
be
she
ready?
can handle.
You think she'll be coming out with guns blazing?
No.
No, she will not come out with guns
Is
blazing.
there a limited topic for this debate?
Yes, they're 15-minute segments, and that's going to be the difference. You can't
Wait a
do
minute, 15-minute segments on what
different
topics?
issues.
Would you not take it into
They've
consideration?
been
Trump is
announced.
so talented at this. Live, in stage, he clobbered all the Republicans.
But
This
they
guy
weren't
is fearless and
15-minute
ready-
segments.
It
That's
doesn't
the,
make any difference how long his segments are. I've seen this guy do it live. I saw him in one of the presidential debates. In one sentence, he dismissed Hugh Hewitt. Then he clobbered Marco Rubio. Then he had another sentence and addressed the general. This guy
Voters
is gonna
want
kill it.
more than his crap this
That's,
debate.
You know what?
They're
you are
going to
now
be
lowering
looking.
the
They're
bar,
going to be
Susan.
looking
And I'm
for
sorry to hear
But
that.
they're
more
one
than
What he
night
has done
seniors
he
is
has
all he
put out-
ever gave.
He has identified problems with plausible solutions, and Hillary has
He's
nothing but
content
feel-good
free. Donald Trump is
pablum,
content
and
free.
she has no message. Doug Wilder, who is a former Virginia Democratic governor, says the woman has no message. So how is she going to play that on Monday? I want to tell you something. We're going to go to bed Monday night. Trump's going to come off so Reagan-esque that you're going to realize that the new Ronald is Donald.
She's got
Jerry, do you?
And
you
you've been
are
waiting all week
aware
to say that.
That in the first debate,
Actually did that in May.
in the first debate, Ronald Reagan was deemed to have lost to Jimmy Carter.
Yep.
You do realize that, don't you?
And
I
Barack
don't think that
Obama
is
lost
the
the first
takeaway
state.
image people have of Ronald Reagan. And it was certainly not the one that I had communicated so clearly to our audience. But go ahead, Casey, you're going to pick up somewhere.
I think she has the bigger challenge here, which is this is a change election, and yet she's got to appeal to the continuity of Obama. And it's a very hard
But I
balance.
think voters, when they get to this point, they want someone who is statesmanlike and not to just sort of fly off the
Why
handle.
is she statesmanlike? She is terrible on television, terrible live.
Yeah, I know. Abe
But
Lincoln
she
no
doesn't
qualities
say
in
things
this
that will
regard.
make people afraid
or
of
hate
her
Why-
to
why-
become
why-
commander
Why don't you
in
ask the
chief.
parents of the
But
people
li-
in Benghazi?
but
Why don't
listen-
you
She
ask
does
the
not make
400,000
intemperate
Syrians
Jerry,
that
I-
remarks.
Let's-
Mark,
Like-
wrap it up.
I was going to say,
we got to go.
li-
We
listen,
got to go to the next
here's
topic.
here's the problem with her message. It's all about Donald Trump, and it is not a positive message going forward for
And
the
she
future.
we're gonna
will
find-
be.
That's what Doug Wilder
She
said.
will be
Guys,
addressing
we got to go.
that.
We're going to go to the next topic. We've got a very important Senate race in Maryland, and this week both the Baltimore Sun and the Washington Post reported it's as good as over because Chris Van Hollen has a 30-point lead over Maryland delegate Kathleen Szeliga in the race to succeed retiring Senator Barbara Mikulski. He has twice as much cash in the bank and far more broader name recognition after 13 years in Congress and a bruising primary in the spring that drew national attention. Mark, Szeliga continues to campaign vigorously. Can she pull an upset?
Well, it will be a challenge for her to pull it upset, but the good news is that Republicans don't need to win this particular seat in order to hold control of the Senate, and that's looking much more more of a prospect right now. Her challenge is that there's so many competitive races, some of them in some of the largest states, that really the kind of financing that goes into competitive Senate races has not yet been attracted into Maryland for her.
Well, they're not coming to Maryland because of the voter registration and the uphill climb that she would have to make in order to win.
Well, frankly, if she was closer in the polls, they might be more tempted to come into this race. But there are races in Florida, in Pennsylvania, and
Illinois.
and
Well,
The
Illinois.
last time the
I think
national
there's
money
two
has
things
been
we
here
gotta take in.
was when Michael Steele ran.
Right.
Two things are not taken into consideration. Number one, the number you're talking about is Larry Hogan's approval rating is over 70%. And this is not the Maryland of previous elections.
Chris Van Hollen
But
is going to
he
wipe
has no
her out.
coattails for her.
Well,
in
if
this
Hogan
race.
was running,
there's no,
there might be an
people
argument.
in Maryland
There
are
might be
sick
an argument.
That's not gonna convey.
So is the race over? Or you think
you
it
know,
is?
if I were from the South
Saya?
and talking about her, I would be saying, well, bless her heart. Because yes, it is over. Chris Van Hollen has a war chest. He also has a persona and a public persona of reason, and he has peerless constituent service.
So Jerry, what I want to ask you, because you were trying to get there, but you weren't quite there. What is the hidden vote for Trump in Maryland? and will it support Shalega?
It's a lot bigger than you think. I mean, the state is on fire for Trump. You get outside of the Baltimore-Washington corridor, and I know that's where the population concentration is, but Maryland is not the same state it was a while ago. People are really fed up, and it's going to bleed over, I think, into this race. And I'll tell you something else that people really ought to pay attention to. Trump's going to win this election. We're going to hold the Senate. We have the Congress. The Washington area does not have a single elected Republican. Neither state has any elected Republicans. This is a
What
one
is
industry.
Andy Harris?
This is a one. He is not in the Washington suburbs. The senators are in both states are Democrats. All of the congressmen and are from the Democratic Party. This is a one industry town with this federal government. Donald Trump's going to come in here with a meat cleaver to the budget, and there is not a single person in the Republican Party to speak for Maryland, Virginia, or for the Washington area in that case.
Thank God
That,
there's
of
you,
anything,
Jerry.
is a great reason to vote for Kathy Shalega.
What happened to Governor Hogan?
Governor
didn't
Hogan
endorse
is not
him.
Going to be, he's not going to be able. He's not a congressman. He's not a senator. He's not going to be on
And
Capitol
he
Hill.
didn't endorse him.
That doesn't. That's not has nothing to do with the
He
point
says
I'm
he's
making.
not going to vote for him.
That has nothing to do with the point I'm making.
No.
And if you say it for a third time, my answer is the same.
No.
Well,
What I'm saying is we have no voice on Capitol Hill. Our entire industry in the Washington area is federal government. Have you anybody thought about how stupid that is?
Jerry, has
Jerry,
it changed
that's
in
a
30
wild
years?
speculation.
It hasn't
No,
changed
it's
in
not
30 years.
speculation. It's a statement of fact. They're all elected Democrats.
No, I'm
but if
saying
you vote
your
for Kathy
projection.
Shalega,
We got to wrap
Your
it up.
projection of the
When we come
results
back
is a
from the
wild
short break,
speculation.
we're going to take a look at the increasingly bitter contest between Democrat John Delaney and Republican Ami Hober, and what to make of the football players at Watkins Mill kneeling during the national anthem. Stay tuned. And welcome back. This week, Congressman John Delaney filed charges against his Republican challenger, Ami Hober, alleging that her husband, Mark Epstein, has illegally spent $1 million on her campaign in violation of campaign laws. Susan, Mr. Delaney is known as one of the wealthiest members in Congress and is known to have spent at least $2.3 million of his own money when he was running against former Congressman Roscoe Bartlett. So doesn't it take some chutzpah for him to make the change?
It's one thing to spend your own money on your campaign. You have that right. But in the case of Ami Hober,
It's her husband.
let me finish. He's not spending it. They're putting it through the guise of a PAC. He has spent $1.3 million. Only $1,000 came from anybody else. That's all they've spent the money on is her. It is wrong. If he wants to spend the money on his honey, then he should just give it to her and say, "This is our money,
actually,
honey.
you can't
Spend it."
quite-
On the honey, I like that. It's very
John Delaney
what alliteration
is
there.
simply on the offensive. He has to be because he is in a more moderate and conservative congressional district, and so yes, he has to go on the
People
offensive.
are listening
Delaney is not
to
only
this.
one of the wealthiest people, he's one of the smartest guys down on Capitol Hill. And what he knows he can't do is run on his record, because as a member of the minority party in the House, he has no influence, no power, he's done nothing and can do nothing. What he is doing is a desperate distraction to hang on so he can then run in the gubernatorial race
Jerry,
and lose to Larry Hogan.
Jerry, is there ever any Democrat for whom you give credit? You
I
have
just
Doug
said John
Wilder.
Delaney, one of the smartest guys on Capitol Hill.
you have insulted
No, wait a
every
minute.
Democrat
Let's-
that they've
let's-
done nothing.
Wait a
That's
minute.
not fair.
Let's get to the analysis
I gave-
of the race. The fact is that this is a moderate district that has lots of Republicans in it, and if there's any swing, Delaney could lose. I mean, we all know that this district was created to give the Democrats another seat by adding in Montgomery County voters, and that the people in Western Maryland are fed up.
But John Delaney, they're not as fed up as what you might think.
Oh,
and
no,
John,
Susan, they are fed up.
Yeah.
no, but
They're
John
more than
Delaney
fed up.
is a moderate Democrat, and
and
I
he's a
think
business Democrat.
But
Yes.
let's remember 2 years ago, he got less than 50% of the vote. He only was able to eke out of an re-election of a couple of thousand, I mean, just a little bit above that, because his polling showed him he had enough money to have polling showed him behind, and he was able to spend several $100,000 in the last week on the very expensive Washington TV market. So
doesn't that underscore just why he's doing this?
Yes.
Because this candidate, Ami Hober, has money to spend against him.
Why doesn't she
And
spend
Ami
it
Hober is a
herself?
great candidate and would be a much better representative. And as I said before,
In your opinion.
Listen,
It's
at
not an
least
absolute,
she
in
would
your
be
opinion.
a member of the majority. They're still going to have control of the House of Representatives, and at least we would have a voice.
He
there.
would be
If
the-
you have only Democrats, you have no voice of influence.
What's wrong with the loyal opposition? Democrats do get things done.
Well, you have a plethora of
Well,
unloyal
I
opposition.
want
here in the
wait, but I want
Washington
to
area.
keep focusing on the race. Let's talk about the race. The fact is that both Hober is lobbing charges at Delaney. She must have scored some points when she said that one of his former companies was a predatory lender. So this is a tight race, and that's why they're going back and forth on this. It's not because one's weak on one thing or the other. Anybody else?
It's small. Those things are small potatoes. They ought to be talking about.
It's a
it
more
bigger
interesting
point.
All right,
race.
this is an important. We're going to our fourth topic, which is very important because it's local. In 2008, many, including myself, thought that the election of Barack Obama as President of the United States was an important milestone in recognizing the improved relationship in race in America. But as described by J.D. Vance, writing in the National Review, the United States has never been entirely sure what to do about race. Alone among the countries of the world as it attempted to construct not just a state of different tribes, but a nation of them, white and black, Christian and Muslim, and many others too. Its sense of nationalism has evolved unevenly, slowly incorporating an ever-growing chunk of people within its borders, and it has made steady progress until now. In 2016, the progress of recent decades, both political and social, appears to have evaporated in the past few years. It therefore doesn't come as a surprise that the response to Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the National Anthem in support of those that demand reforms in the criminal justice system has many taking disparate positions in response. The impact of Kaepernick's protest can be seen as other professional athletes follow his examples, and now the discussion has reached Montgomery County. It was on display as the football players from Watkins Mill High School kneeled during the playing of the National Anthem, and the opposing team, the Damascus High School students, sang the song even louder. Cynthia, Harvard economist Roland Fryer published an exhaustive study of police use of force. Its conclusion is clear, that black youth derive their fear of police from experience. The injury done to our black citizen is important, and no respectable party can ignore it. Should the Watkins Mill students have been allowed to protest, and should there have been reprisals?
Well, yes, they should be allowed to protest. Their coach was behind them. And MCPS policy also allows students to that kind of freedom of expression. I haven't read any coach's remarks across Montgomery County that does not support students being able to take
All right,
this
but do they
example of
know
freedom of
exactly
expression.
what they're protesting?
I think I do know that the student at Watkins Mill, the football player who initiated this, does and has spoken very eloquently and clearly in the media about the reasons for them taking a knee at these games.
Well, I want to go to Mark because that's what I'm concerned about, is whether or not these protests are validly based. Mark, yesterday, as riots were occurring in Charlotte, North Carolina, after the shooting of a black man by police, basketball player Magic Johnson asked the question, when will the killings of black men stop? Yet, in Fryer's study that we just discussed, he found no racial disparity in the use of lethal force among whites and blacks. So how can the racial divide heal if the perception and the reality are so far apart?
You know, I think we've got to stop talking about these incidents as symbols and make generalizations about individual incidents based on that, and look at the specifics and look at what happened and what the facts are and parse them out accordingly. And I think what frequently happens is when something happens, as it happens in Charlotte, things get blown out of proportion, where people make generalizations one way the police are right or on the other way that the police are wrong, when really what we ought to do is what happened, what were the perceptions, and let the criminal justice system
But
work
guys,
its way
You
out.
guys are
people-
looking at the minuscule parts of this so much that you're missing the
It's
big
not
picture.
minuscule.
This was put together as a carefully orchestrated street theater to make America look racist, requiring a Democratic president.
You're talking
And
about
it is-
You're talking
Oh
about
my
I'm talking
Charlotte.
about
God.
Charlotte. I'm talking about Ferguson, Baltimore, and Baton Rouge. All of
Casey,
them.
I'd like
No,
to
wait a
say
second. Let me get my point out. I've had to listen to all three of you on this, and it is blowing up in their faces. This is not helping Hillary. This is hurting her. They can kiss North Carolina by.
Jerry,
Wait a second.
this
You're missing
isn't-
the other point on
I don't
this.
want to talk about the political side of this.
Well, this,
I want to
this
talk
is the
about,
whole point of it. Why didn't it happen 8 years ago, 10 years ago?
Do you know what-
And there's not, and this is not any different than it was 8 or 10 years ago. And the other problem is this is focusing America on the inner cities. The black inner cities have been run by Democrats for 60 years that have gotten worse. And Donald Trump has come out and said, you have nothing to lose by voting for me. And you know what? And
Casey-
Doug Wilder said the same thing. in
Casey-
the
all
Washington
right, let's
Post.
hear Susan.
A couple of things happened today. One is there was a shooting in Baltimore County this afternoon, which I don't know what that's going to. And in Charlotte, North Carolina, the wife of the man who was shot released a video she made, and this man had a brain injury a year ago. But this is what's most important, Jerry, and you need to listen to this.
The question is, did he have a gun in his hand
Yeah,
or not?
exactly.
Yeah, I don't
But
care if
Not
you
whether
have
he had a
brain
brain
injury.
injury.
Well, wait a minute.
Did he
Then
have a
they
gun in
should
his
have
hand?
released the police video.
And they
because
haven't.
It's evidence.
Will you
It's
let me
evidence.
finish?
Why don't we
That
talk
is
about, what about when
code
white people
for
get shot
it
by the
might
police?
make
Will you
us
let me-
look
Why don't white
bad.
people go right?
No, let me finish.
So make
what
your point-
happened?
finish your point.
What happened is a poll came out this week, and something has changed in that we are getting videos from people on the street, and for the first time, white Americans in this poll have admitted that there are disparities in the criminal justice system, and it is time that
Wait a
we
minute.
acknowledge that.
I don't know what
The
study you're
statistics
referring.
just
It
demonstrate
just
the
came out a
opposite.
poll this week,
But
and I
what
think
are
We're
the-
not
what
polling
are-
people's
Hold on,
opinion over
Jerry.
fact.
Hold on, Jerry. What is the disparity? I mean, that's a broad statement.
No.
You mean the
Yeah,
fact
I mean-
the fact that
Let her answer. Let's
more
hear it.
minorities may be convicted of a crime?
know that they are being treated differently.
Just want to make a point about these incidents I believe need to be seen not in isolation, but in a larger context of what the context in which people live. And when they experience these incidents, they look at them in the broader context of their lives, in their communities. People who live in West Baltimore, they want law and order as much as anyone. They want to live in a state that has police, but they do not want to live in a police state.
And they don't want stop and
that
frisk.
is-
That
I
was
think is what
deemed
they experience.
unconstitutional. But I guess Donald Trump didn't hear that when he demanded that this week.
Actually, the case is a lot more complicated than that.
But you can't-
And I will tell you, it was the way it was being used in New York City was addressed by a lower court. It's not quite as clear on that. And stop and frisk in New York was an important tool that drove down the murder rate dramatically. And lives were saved.
Well, this is the but
as a
we
result
got to
of that.
bring this back home. We have talked about this topic for the past 2 years. We talked about it when Baltimore was burning. We've talked about it when Ferguson was burning. We've talked about this topic, and it pains me that our racial relationships are fraying. I think this is a very dangerous time. And
Casey,
Jerry,
it was a black policeman who shot a black person.
Jerry,
How is this a racial incident?
it's expanded to the point where they don't trust the criminal justice system.
Who doesn't
and if,
trust the
And
criminal
if we
justice
don't have law and order, the civilization
Ferguson
starts to fray.
and Baton Rouge,
Jerry,
they were belligerent
I'm
with
wrapping
the
it up.
police.
I'm taking the last word. Stay tuned for parting shots. Welcome back. Now with parting shots, Cynthia Rubenstein.
Okay, I'm going very local. I want to talk about Montgomery County community media and the community in Montgomery community media. They will be helping cover an event at Sligo Middle School next Saturday. Middle school students are going to be doing an event that will help show Montgomery County the future of energy and power for the world. It's a free event and runs 12 to noon at Sligo Middle School, and I hope the community comes out.
Thank you. Mark Uncapher, your parting shot.
This week, the new Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture is opening in Washington, and I think it's fitting and it's appropriate, and it's really a time that we all can celebrate.
Jerry.
What's very important right now is that Democrats are coming out to vote for Donald Trump, and it's happening on purpose. He launched his campaign to target one of the most loyal constituencies of the Democratic Party, which are blue-collar workers, by bringing jobs back, and he has now done the same thing in the inner-city black community with a very simple message. What have you got to lose for voting for him? And after 60 years, they have nothing to lose.
Thank you. Susan, wrap it up for us.
Today I went to the doctor and got my EpiPen renewed. 2 little pens, $812.92. But with my insurance, I only have to pay $200. It's outrageous, and I am glad that Congress is investigating it. Elijah Cumming and Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota are leading the effort. Go, guys. Democrats, you're doing a great job.
And thank you, panel, for your parting shots, and thank you for being here. Great, lively discussion. I can't wait to see what happens after the debates on Monday. Stay tuned for 21 This Week, each and every week. 21 This Week, I'm Casey Aiken. Goodbye and good night.